Hello and welcome back to another Buff Sports Live, where we'll take you step by step through this week's Return to the Turf. I'm Christina Robin. Football is back. That's right, after months of uncertainty and doubt, there will finally be football at Folsom Field. Kickoff is set for 5 p.m. Mountain Time against the UCLA Bruins. There are only 6 games in the regular season, and Sam Neuer will start as quarterback for his first time as a Buff, and is also head coach Karl Dorrell's debut. Ironically, Dorrell's first opponent is his former team. That's right, he played and coached for UCLA and has had 2 previous stints coaching at Colorado before coming back as head coach.
Obviously very fond of UCLA. I went to school there. And I'm excited. I'm just excited to be back playing this, coaching this game. And, I've been in the NFL for the last, 12 or so years. And it was a great experience doing that. But I was hopeful for an opportunity to come back and be a head coach again.
When you're watching the game on Saturday, there are 2 players you should watch out for. Sophomore Jarek Broussard and junior Chris Miller have been added to the 2020 Mayo Clinic Comeback Player of the Year watch list. This exclusive list consists of 53 players who will attempt to have a major comeback season this year. Broussard and Miller both suffered season-ending injuries in 2019, but they seem poised for an excellent 2020 after great showings in practice and impressive depth chart numbers. In other Pac-12 news, the conference announced today that they will be canceling this weekend's game against Arizona and Utah. Utah says they don't have enough scholarship players that would be eligible to play because they've tested positive for the coronavirus. Speaking more broadly, Utah is one of the nation's biggest hotspots when it comes to the virus. Their positivity rate is almost 20%. Ideally, that would be close to 2 or 3%. Moving on to hoops. The men's basketball season will begin on November 25th, but with only one problem. We don't have an opponent scheduled to play for the opening game. The Buffs have been committed to play in the Little Apple Classic to kick off the season along with Kansas State and Drake. CU was meant to start the season against South Dakota State University, but their team bailed on the tournament this past weekend. Tad Boyle expressed his disappointment, saying that everybody is self-serving. The Little Apple Classic is now desperately looking for a 4th team to compete in the beginning of the year event. Boyle said they could play it with only 3 teams, but only as a last resort. Making impressions extending beyond the Pac-12 is McKinley Wright. Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame announced that the Colorado Guard is on the official watch list. Only 20 candidates are elected for the Bob Cousy Point Guard of the Year award. And who better to rep the black and gold than the 2-time All-Pac-12 Conference first team selection? Now, put away those textbooks, those encyclopedias, those telephones, those PDAs, because it's time for this week's trivia question. Since Karl Dorrell is making his Colorado coaching debut against his former team UCLA, we're asking you, what was Dorrell's record as the head coach at UCLA? We'll have the answer later in the show. Now, we'll be right back, so stay tuned for more Buff Sports history and volleyball news.
Please record in Mike and Q Talent in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mic up on 2. All right, take 1. And fade camera 2. Take 3. Ready, red. Roll red. Take cam 1. Take red. Take it. Come on, roll red. Let's go. All right.
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm just calling the show.
There's no show.
Yes, it is that time for the best segment the world has ever seen. That's right, Buff Banter is here. Our reporter in the field, Vinay Simlot, has all of the deets.
Ready? Thanks, Christina. Let's talk about the men's basketball season. Every year, a writer named Matt Norlander at CBS Sports ranks every D1 college basketball team in the nation. And this year, he says Colorado will be his 40th best team in the country. Norlander thinks the Buffs' ceiling in the Pac-12 is number 2 and their floor is number 7. He argues that Tad Boyle is on the verge of becoming the best coach in program history. Nice. I think most observers agree that the Tad Boyle era might be the best in Colorado basketball history, and this year the Buffs have the chance to be special. We've given you our predictions before, but let's go through the lineup to see what we can expect this season, starting with the vets, the players that have seen the most playing time over the past few years. McKinley Wright will be running the offense again this year. He's been on fire offensively over the past few years. His only issue is whether he can limit his turnovers. We'll see if he can make that jump this season. Deshaun Schwartz has always been a great defender, but over the past year, he's developed a great-looking shot and has the ability to spark the CU offense. Evan Batty is a fan-favorite big man, tons of emotion, tons of heart, and he always comes to play. Those three will be the players that CU relies on the most heading into this season. Next up are the players who have had some experience but have some question marks. I'll start with Maddox Daniels, who fans saw a lot of last season, but didn't really see any consistency. Same with Elijah Parquet, but Tad says he's been impressed with him this season in practice. Uriah Horn is a Tulsa transfer who's a sharp three-point shooter. The Buffs will need that consistency on offense this season. And Dallas Walton, he's in a tough situation. The 7-footer has proven that he can play with some of the best in the conference, but after his third ACL injury, we don't know if he'll be the same player we saw before. And then lastly, the newcomers, Luke O'Brien and Dominique Clifford, two very good friends, two talented freshmen, and two Colorado favorites. Then comes Tristan da Silva, a German big man. His brother plays for Stanford. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, is Keyshawn Bartholomew. He's the guard to watch. Tad Boyle says he and McKinley Wright might be the best guard combo he's had since he's been here at Colorado. As we move towards the season, Christina, we'll have to see how the lineup shakes out since they have so much talent.
Colorado volleyball is working to build a national contending team under head coach Jesse Mahoney. The Buffs have 69 wins, 2 NCAA tournament appearances, and a trip to the Sweet 16. And that's not where the show ends. The team also reps 2 All-Americans and 3 Pac-12 all-freshman picks in the last 4 years. The recruiting staff and Mahoney searched nationwide for players who could build up what CU calls a winning culture. And this week in Buffs history, it's a big one. It's the first win for the Buffs here in Boulder. The date was November 8th, 1972. The U of C, yes, that's what they called it back then, was playing Denver in a huge rivalry game. Colorado won 46-0, and the U of C and Denver would play football 44 more times. Colorado won the series 26-14-4, and Denver doesn't have a football team anymore, but the rivalry will still live on. Although we won't if we don't get that trivia question soon. When we get back, you'll find out about our new head coach's winning record.
They were nervous and inexperienced, as new faces looking to achieve greatness. As the years went on, they grew confident in their abilities.
Maybe. Yes, sir!
Now they look to guide others in the same pursuit.
There it is! Can you believe it?
All are welcome to be featured on the biggest stage.
Is it his time? Yes!
We invite you to discover what you're capable of at BuffSports Live.
And now it's time for the answer to our trivia question. Remember, we asked you, what was Dorrell's record as the head coach at UCLA? And the answer is, drum roll please, Karl Dorrell was 35-27 during his 5 seasons at UCLA. We'll see how he does when he starts his tenure here at CU. As if this week couldn't get more exciting enough, here comes our tweet of the week. This tweet comes from CBS Sports and features Forever Buff running back Phillip Lindsay. It is quite crazy to believe, but Phillip Lindsay is the only NFL player since the merger to have 450-plus career rushes and 0 career fumbles. Not bad for an undrafted rookie, I would say. That's all we have for you today on Buff Sports Live. We'll be back next week with news for the first Colorado football game of 2020 beneath the Flatirons. Have a great day, and as always, Go Buffs!